Imagine finding out that the worst, most tragic things that will ever happen to you aren't punishments for your mistakes.
Right.
Like, they aren't the result of some terrible choice you made or, I don't know, a karmic balancing of the scales.
Yeah, that's not what's happening here.
Instead, imagine discovering that your utter ruin was just baked into your life before you were even born. Welcome to the deep dive, by the way. I'm your host, and today we are looking at something pretty intense.
It really is a terrifying thought. Honestly, I'm glad to be here to break it down.
Hmm.
It completely destroys our modern sense of fairness
Totally.
because, we desperately want to believe that if we play by the rules, if we act decently, we'll be safe. But the sources we are looking at today, from Edith Hamilton's Mythology, they just take that comforting illusion and shatter it completely.
They really do. So, our mission today isn't just to recount some ancient Greek ghost stories. We are taking a deep dive into the royal house of Thebes.
A legendary family.
Exactly. We are tracking one specific bloodline from the glorious founding of a city right down to its absolute catastrophic destruction. And we want to look at this family as a psychological mirror.
That's the best way to approach it.
Right. Like, what does their story tell you about fate, the fragility of innocence, and the terrifying limits of human control?
And to understand the sheer scale of the generational collapse here, you have to look at the literal bedrock the city was built upon.
The foundation.
Yeah. You cannot understand the fall of this family without looking at the incredibly dark seeds of violence that started it all.
Okay, let's unpack this. Like, it all begins with a man named Cadmus, and his initial mission is completely pure.
Right. His sister has been abducted.
Yeah, Europa. And he goes to the famous oracle at Delphi to ask the gods where he can find her. He's just trying to put his family back together.
Which is completely understandable. But the oracle, who is speaking for Apollo, tells Cadmus to abandon the search.
Just give up.
Yes. Instead, he gets this bizarre instruction. He needs to walk until he sees a random cow, a heifer, and just follow it. And wherever that animal finally lies down to rest, he has to build a brand new city.
Which becomes Thebes. But before Cadmus can lay a single foundation stone, he hits a massive obstacle.
A very literal monster.
Exactly. The spring of water near this site is guarded by a dragon, and this dragon immediately slaughters all of Cadmus's companions.
Just wipes them out.
So Cadmus steps up, fights this monster, and actually manages to kill it.
Which, feels like a standard hero's journey so far. He defeats the monster, but then the goddess Athena shows up.
Right.
And she gives him an instruction that completely changes the tone of the entire story. She tells Cadmus to take the teeth of the dead dragon and literally plant them into the soil like seeds.
Which is so weird, and the moment those teeth hit the dirt, fully armed warriors burst up out of the ground.
It's an incredible image.
But they don't attack Cadmus, they instantly turn on each other. It's just a mindless, frenzied, spontaneous bloodbath.
Completely out of nowhere.
Yeah. They hack each other to pieces until only 5 wounded warriors are left standing. And those 5 survivors, they become Cadmus's helpers. They are the first citizens of Thebes.
Which sets a very specific tone for the city.
Wait, hold on. Athena tells him to plant dragon teeth, knowing this will happen.
Oh, absolutely.
That sounds less like a foundation myth and more like a deliberate setup by the gods to ensure the city is inherently violent. Like, are the gods essentially sabotaging humanity here? It's like planting a garden of landmines and then acting surprised when the house blows up.
What's fascinating here is it's not so much sabotage as it is a statement about the nature of the world.
How so?
Well, in the Greek worldview presented here, the foundation of civilization requires extreme violence. And that violence doesn't just evaporate, it seeps into the groundwater.
Wow.
Even though Cadmus actually rules wisely, he marries Harmonia, a daughter of the gods, and the gods even attend the wedding.
Oh, and they bring that necklace, right?
Yes. They bring a wondrous divine necklace made by Hephaestus as a wedding gift, which, as we'll see, brings disaster to later generations.
But at the time, it looks like prosperity, though that prosperity is a complete illusion. And this is where that terrifying idea of innocence comes in.
Right.
Cadmus and his wife don't do anything wrong, but their descendants are subjected to horrific, unearned fates.
Yeah, to understand the psychological horror of this universe, just look at what happens to one of Cadmus's grandsons, Actaeon.
Oh, this story is rough.
It really is. This young man is just out hunting. He gets thirsty, wanders into a cave to cool off, and completely by accident, he stumbles upon Artemis, the goddess of the hunt, bathing.
He didn't mean to pry at all.
Not at all. He didn't break a moral law. He was just thirsty.
And she destroys him for it.
Worse than destroys him. The offended divinity splashes water in his face and turns him into a deer.
Ugh.
And the source text specifically highlights the psychological agony here. She allows him to keep his human mind.
That is the worst part.
He has human awareness, but he is trapped in the body of a prey animal. He flees in absolute terror, and his own faithful hunting dogs, the dogs that loved him, chase him down and tear him apart.
That is completely unhinged. I mean, there's no lesson there.
None.
There's no moral to the story where he should have known better. It's just wrong place, wrong time, and now you are violently erased from existence.
And that is the mechanism of tragedy in this era. The wind of the gods' favor never blows steadily for long. I mean, look at another daughter, Agave, who's driven mad by Dionysus and ends up killing her own son, thinking he's a lion.
It's just relentless misfortune.
Exactly. Eventually, Cadmus and Harmonia flee the city just to escape it all. But the gods turn them into serpents anyway.
Which the text notes isn't even a punishment.
Right. It's just to prove that innocence is absolutely no shield against cosmic bad luck.
So if innocence doesn't protect you, what happens when you actively try to fight back against the universe?
That is the big question.
And that brings us to the most famous member of this family tree, Oedipus. Because with Oedipus, trying to run away from fate is the exact mechanism that seals it.
It starts with Oedipus's father, King Laius of Thebes. He receives a prophecy from Apollo's oracle that his own son is going to murder him.
So the king decides to outsmart the architecture of reality.
Yeah. When his son is born, he binds the infant's feet and abandons him on a desolate mountain to die from exposure.
He thinks he has controlled the future by eliminating the threat.
But the baby survives. He is rescued, taken to Corinth, and raised by King Polybus as his own son. Oedipus grows up brilliant, capable, and completely unaware that he is adopted.
Right, until as a young man, he hears his own terrifying oracle, that he is fated to kill his father and marry his mother.
And look at Oedipus's reaction. It is deeply moral.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to hurt the parents who raised him in Corinth, so he completely uproots his life.
He flees.
Yes, he embraces a life of self-exile entirely to protect the people he loves.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's like using a GPS that reroutes you straight into the massive traffic jam you were desperately trying to avoid.
That is a perfect analogy.
Because on this lonely road, fleeing his supposed fate, Oedipus comes to a place where 3 roads meet. And he runs into a rude old man in a chariot who tries to force him off the path.
The old man strikes him.
Yeah, Oedipus gets angry, fights back, and in the scuffle, he kills the old man and his guards. And he has absolutely no idea that the man bleeding out in the dirt is Laius, the king of Thebes.
His actual biological father.
Right.
By actively trying to outsmart the oracle, both the father and the son become the instruments of its fulfillment.
Just inevitable.
Because Apollo is the god of truth. The Greeks didn't view prophecies as mere predictions of what might happen. They viewed them as structural pillars of reality. Trying to make a prophecy void is fundamentally futile. It's like trying to break the law of gravity.
And what makes Oedipus so fascinating is his defining trait, his intellect.
Oh, absolutely.
He wanders into Thebes, which is currently being terrorized by the Sphinx, and she eats anyone who can't solve her riddle.
What goes on 4 feet in the morning, 2 at noon, and 3 in the evening.
Right. And Oedipus solves it instantly. The answer is man.
Defeating chaos with pure logic. The Sphinx actually kills herself.
And the grateful city makes him king. And the prize is that he gets to marry the newly widowed queen, Jocasta, who is his mother.
The trap snaps, completely shut. And he reigns for years, deeply loved by his people, entirely blind to the reality of his own life.
Until a plague hits the city. People are dying, things are terrible. Creon returns from Delphi saying the plague will only end when the murderer of the old king is found and punished.
And this is where the story turns into a psychological thriller.
Oedipus, acting as a responsible, protective leader, vows to solve this mystery.
He brings in Tiresias, the blind prophet, and Tiresias desperately refuses to speak.
Because he knows the truth.
He knows it will destroy the king. But Oedipus's relentless need to know forces the truth out. The prophet reluctantly tells him, "You are the killer."
I find this part so incredibly tense. Oedipus uses the exact same brilliant analytical mind that defeated the Sphinx to interrogate a messenger from Corinth and an old shepherd.
Slowly putting the pieces together.
Yeah, he acts as the detective, the prosecutor, and the prime suspect all at once. He corners himself.
That is the ultimate tragic irony. His greatest strength, his relentless intelligence, is exactly what he uses to uncover his own horrific truth.
When Jocasta figures it out first, she goes into the palace and takes her own life.
And when Oedipus finally pieces it together,
Yeah.
that he killed his father, married his mother, He doesn't choose death.
No. He takes the pins from Jocasta's dress and gouges his own eyes out.
The text notes, he found the black world of blindness to be a refuge from what he had seen.
His entire reality just collapses.
It does. And this collapse leaves us with a profound question. What happens to the people left in the blast radius?
The kids.
Yes, his children didn't defy the gods, but they are left to navigate the immense fallout.
Which brings us to the next generation. And the tension shifts from fighting fate to fighting human law. Oedipus is exiled, wandering in blindness with his loyal daughter Antigone, lovingly guiding him until he dies peacefully in Colonus.
Welcomed by the Athenian king Theseus, actually.
Right. But back in Thebes, his two sons, Eteocles and Polynices, are battling for the throne. Eteocles expels his brother.
So Polynices goes and gathers an Argive army to attack his own homeland.
And remember that wondrous divine necklace, Harmonia's necklace?
Oh yes. Polynices actually uses that cursed necklace to bribe a prophet's wife, Eriphyle.
Yeah, to force your husband to join the doomed attack.
The curse just keeps radiating outward.
The war is brutal. I mean, Creon's young son, Menoetius, even sacrifices his own life in battle to save the city, even though Creon begs him to flee.
It's devastating, and ultimately the two brothers meet in single combat and kill each other.
So Creon assumes absolute control of the city, and he issues a decree that forces a massive showdown.
Between human decrees and divine justice.
Exactly. He declares that Polynices must remain unburied, his corpse left out to rot.
We have to pause here to understand the gravity of this decree. To the ancient Greeks, if a body was not buried, the soul was doomed to wander in desolation forever. It was a horrific punishment.
I have to push back on Creon here. So what does this all mean? The brother is dead. The threat is gone. It feels like an extreme, tyrannical overreaction.
He's trying to make an example of a traitor.
But it's like a posthumous cancellation that goes way beyond earthly justice. How can one person's ego blind them to fundamental human decency? He's trying to govern the afterlife.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this highlights the philosophical core of the source text. Creon represents the laws of the state, but Antigone, Oedipus's daughter, represents the moral conscience of the individual.
She is horrified by the decree. She defies the state entirely. Her sister Ismene is terrified, but Antigone goes out amidst a dust storm and buries her brother anyway.
And when she's caught, she tells Creon straight to his face that she follows the unwritten laws of heaven, which are eternal, unlike his mortal edict.
She refuses to let Ismene share the blame and goes to her death alone.
Antigone represents the sacred duty to humanity that transcends any political ruler. But her individual moral stand expands outward.
Yeah.
Because when one city abandons the laws of right, it forces neighboring nations to step in. The consequences of hubris are contagious.
Right, because after the war, Adrastus, the only surviving Argive chieftain, goes to Athens to beg King Theseus for help just to bury their dead.
And Theseus initially refuses, blaming the Argives for starting the war.
But his mother, Aethra, intervenes. She urges him to defend the wronged and uphold the sacred laws of right that hold all states together.
So Theseus takes it to a vote in Athens' free assembly. They march on Thebes and win.
But notice the sharp contrast between the tyranny of Creon and the democratic restraint of Theseus. Theseus does not destroy Thebes or enslave its people.
Not at all.
He only reclaims the bodies, personally washing and preparing them for the funeral pyre.
Although, sadly, during the pyre, Capaneus' wife Evadne leaps into the flames to die with her husband. The trauma just runs so deep.
It really does. And as they watch the fires, the young sons of the dead champions, the Epigoni, or afterborn vow vengeance, 10 years later, they march on Thebes and level it to the ground.
Total destruction.
So, does the Epigoni's brutal revenge 10 years later completely erase the noble lesson of restraint? Theseus just tried to teach everyone.
This raises an important question. It really shows the difference between justice, which was Theseus restoring the moral order by burying the dead and cyclical vengeance, which is the Epigoni destroying the city.
Right. Justice restores, vengeance destroys.
Exactly.
It's a heavy thought. And that brings us to the end of this journey. We've seen how this deep dive into Thebes shows that while you cannot always control the prophecies or circumstances handed down to you, you can choose how you respond.
You really can.
You can choose whether to act like Creon, rigidly enforcing your own ego, or like Antigone. It's a reminder for you, the listener, to examine your own life and the invisible, unwritten moral laws you stand up for in the face of authority.
And I want to leave you with a final lingering image. When the dust settled and the city of Thebes was entirely leveled, the only thing that survived the ruins was Harmonia's necklace.
Wow.
that beautiful divine gift that had secretly carried the weight of generational destruction. It challenges you to ask yourself, what are the necklaces in our modern society?
That's a great point.
What beautifully disguised, highly coveted things do we keep passing down to the next generation, completely ignoring the toxic curses attached to them?
A perfect place to leave it. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.